computer. Okay. Welcome to REI 101. I'm your friend Austin from Houston. This is my amazing co-host and brother, Alberto. How are you doing, brother?
What's up, man? I am doing well today. Just coming off an awesome weekend, and I'm looking forward to starting a great week. And yeah, you got some running in over the weekend too, so that was good.
Oh, good, man.
Feeling pretty good about this week.
I got a few miles in, but probably not as much as you.
I didn't get too many, but I got some. It felt good to be out there running. I got about 10 miles in.
You got this, keeping the streak alive. Keeping the streak alive.
Let's go.
So we are on our deal analysis series. However, before we get too deep into it, we are coming up on big episode number 50.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Episode 50. So Albert's going to run 50 miles for us live on camera. Just kidding.
Already did that.
You already did that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do something a little bit different. For episode 50, we're going to be doing this live on April 16th. Checkmate Real Estate is hosting our quarterly happy hour at Jackie's Brick House. That's Thursday, April 16th, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. However, we're going to shoot our podcast live 4 p.m. Thursday the 16th. So come in, grab a drink, sit down. You can heckle us, and there's going to be no edits. We're just going to go raw, off the cuff. No, we'll be prepared, but we're not going to edit it. So
yeah.
So Albert, what you got going on? Because we got some deals that we want. You're making deals. I'm making deals. We got clients making deals. You got clients making deals, I know.
Oh yeah. We got students making deals. We have some students going through some refinances. We have most of our students are absolutely crushing it on the short-term rental side with Airbnb. They're some of our newer students who spun up some Airbnbs over the last 6-9 months.
No,
they're crushing it.
Okay, so we haven't really had amazing conversations about short-term rentals in quite some time. So what are you? I have a lot of questions. Maybe we can camp on this for a minute. What are you seeing? Is it rebounding completely, or is there different strategies to make this work now?
I'll tell you, it really depends on the area. Your location, it's super important. There are definitely markets that are saturated, right? Galveston, I believe, is one of them. But Houston, with inside the loop or getting close to the loop, you've got FIFA World Cup coming up here in June, July. It's I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks long.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people just kind of still clamoring to get their Airbnbs up and running. But I've had firsthand knowledge and a viewpoint into some of our students' Airbnbs, which we assisted in helping them set up, and they got launched. And we're looking at some of the numbers that they're posting, in some of our coaching calls. And I mean, they're grossing anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000, for March for a duplex. And so
those are current bookings. That's not for the World Cup.
That's not for the World Cup. So World Cup is expected to be 3 to 5 times more than that.
And so for those of you that don't know, I don't know when the World Cup ever was in Houston, but it's going to be here for about a month, like June and July.
Yes. Yeah.
Second half of June, first half of July.
Yeah.
So are you seeing bookings for June and July already?
No, we haven't. No one in our mentorship program has received any bookings yet for World Cup. So, but I mean, what's great about these particular students that have their properties up and running is it's leading up to World Cup, and they got enough lead time to where they've got their super host status. They've got a good set of 5-star reviews and things like that. So going into the World Cup, they're very well prepared. So
do you think there's going to be opportunities for people to list their STRs like a week ahead of time and just be able to gouge that? Are you expecting to see some gouging?
Well, I'm not necessarily gouging. It's just whatever the market will allow. I mean, so some of these places, they're very nice, right? I mean, and their average nightly rate is in between $600 and $800 a night. Like and that's like if they're
This
renting
is
the
like
full
inner
house.
loop downtown, or where is
Yeah, this
this?
is Interloop kind of Edo area, right? So you're pretty close to everything, but this is for bigger parties, right? They'll sleep up to 12 people. So
Hmm.
these are bigger, the duplexes, if they rent the whole house, right? They're getting average nightly rates in March were, I don't know, 750, $800 a night, right?
Wow.
So you get a 3 night stay, you may net 2 grand off of
Okay.
that, and your mortgage is like 2,500 bucks.
Right. Yeah.
So, and what we're seeing is, with dynamic pricing for World Cup, we're seeing pricing that is about 3 to 5 times higher. They're not marking it up. The software is marking it up
Okay. So
off of the
that's just
demand.
natural expectations. That's just
Yeah.
the demand of the market.
Yeah. So, and then you asked a question about like Airbnb, like rebounding and things like that. We have students too, including my mentor, who has kind of pivoted a little bit. He still owns Airbnb, still runs Airbnbs. He
Hmm.
has a management company, manages, I don't know, 50, 60 units, but he has kind of pivoted more to furnished monthly rentals, so midterm rentals, right? Studio apartments, 1, 2 bedroom apartments, things like that for traveling professionals, nurses,
Right.
families coming into town because a loved one might be in the med center or things like
Yeah.
that. Like he's pretty much crushing it. Where you're getting a good 1.5 to 2 times like your long term rent, you're getting that on a monthly basis too.
Yeah. So about a 50% markup,
Yeah.
and he's doing 30 to 90 days at a time for this midterm.
Or just 30 days plus. I don't know what some of his longer stays are, but typically it's probably about 30 to 90 days. Yeah.
Do you know what the vacancy rates are for those midterm rentals? What those look like?
Again, it just really depends on location. If you're in a good location, you're in Edo or down or close to downtown or close to the med center, we have a bunch of zip codes that we particularly invest in where I would say anywhere from 70 to 80% occupancy,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So
So the medical center is kind of the target for the midterm.
Med Center, NRG Stadium, downtown, Edo, Museum District.
Okay.
And I mean, we were seeing even outside the loop starting to kind of push those boundaries for midterm and short-term rentals too.
Wow. Well, that's very good to know because
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have pivoted in the last 2 or 3 years. The whole STR market has slowed down,
Hmm.
um, and there's been a lot of challenges, with a lot of regulations. Like we had a client buy a condo as an STR, and then 6 months later, like, Austin, we need you to sell this property because
Hmm.
um, they're not allowing us to. We've seen that in multiple submarkets, multiple communities where they're not allowed to do it. They get six
Right.
months into it and they get outlawed. And
Right.
so,
Well, what we like about Houston and the city of Houston is before it was just kind of wild wild west. Pretty
mhm,
much anybody can do anything. You would be limited to what some HOA rules and things were
right.
specifically if you're in neighborhoods. But what the city of Houston implemented this year was a licensing program where basically you need to have a license to operate a
Yeah.
STR, and we love that. Like we love that. So then what that does is it shakes out a lot of these illegal STRs or people that are just doing this as a
Hmm.
hobby, right? They don't want to have to pay these extra fees because it's not just a fee that you have to pay. It's a fee. You have to take a human trafficking class, to identify
Mm,
human trafficking.
that's
You have
good.
to have, yeah, you have to, you have to post certain things in your units to make guests aware of
Hmm.
like the rules that apply to short-term rentals because it's not just willy-nilly anymore. So we love that mature, how that market is maturing.
Sure.
We like being in a market where there are regulations, because
Yeah.
if you don't, some things like you're saying can happen, right? If it's just wild, wild west, and then all of a sudden they're saying, "Hey, we're done with short-term rentals," you can kind of get left holding the bag,
That
right?
doesn't address the actual problem or the challenge or the issue, but that that's very interesting to me. So,
Yeah.
all right. So we got some deals that we are going to break down. And yeah, don't forget deal analysis. We're going to do this every month this year, but March, we're going to do this all month. So we're going to check in with Sean here in the next couple of weeks, see if Sean can survive his purchase. So stay tuned for that. We're all rooting for Sean. Albert, you got a deal that you want to share with us. Talk to us about this opportunity, and let's figure out how we can maximize on it.
Yeah, so just a little bit of backstory real quick. So it's a fourplex that we were looking at late last year, early this year, and it's a family that's selling it. It came to us through an agent that we know. Actually, I think she is related to this family. And she reached out to me first, said, "Hey, I've got this fourplex. They're thinking about listing it, but they asked if I knew any investors, and you came to mind." I was like, "Cool." So it's a fourplex. It's kind of southeast Houston, Austin. It's south of the Loop,
Hmm.
east of 45, kind of in the Park Place area, right?
Like
So you're
South
kind of
Houston
close.
almost.
Yeah, South Houston. Yeah. So you're close to the airport, right? Maybe about 10
Hmm.
or 15 minutes to the airport, and you're about 10 or 15 minutes to downtown.
Okay.
But it's outside the loop, and it's in the neighborhood. It's not on a busy street, so it's on a neighborhood street. It's on a huge lot, and I say cool. So we went to go look at it, and we talked about seller financing,
Okay.
right? So that came to mind, and we kind of were coming up with some numbers on what to buy it for, what our offer was going to be, and initially I was thinking, hey, maybe it's 4 units. Let's go over that real quick. So it's a house that's been split into a duplex. The front part of the house is a 3-2. The back part of the house is actually like a one-bedroom studio, but it's a weird layout, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. You have a second building that's a garage apartment, which is a 1-1, and you have a third building, which is another single family home. It is a 2-1. So that's how we're configured right now.
And it's all on the same plot of land.
All on the same lot. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's about a 18,000 square foot lot. It's pretty big.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you able to
So
get a survey on it?
yeah, I'll get a survey, but I'm just kind of going off of HCAD right now at the
Okay.
moment.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll get a survey. But they've got a couple renters in a couple of the units, and they're just month to month. So right now they're collecting about $1,700 in rent total. And the 3-2 and the 2-1, the house in the back, those are what's vacant. And what I'm trying to figure out, Austin, is how much money do I want to put into this property? And or how much can I put into this property? Like I
Hmm.
can put a lot into it, but it's just more like where am I going to get the money to
Yeah.
do it? You know. So we made an initial offer of 350K
Okay.
with
How did you come
40,000.
up with that number?
That's what they wanted. So this is just initial, right?
Okay.
They're like, hey, I was first at 340 or 335. Then they were like, can you get us close to 350? I was like, all right, what about 341? Something like that. And they said, well, they're just really set on 350. I was like, all right, 350 and 10% down. They said, no. They said, they have a lien on the property. They want to pay it off. So they'd like to get 40K down.
Okay.
So that puts my loan at 310 with them. And they're giving me a 6% interest rate, which is pretty good. Considering for like that for investment properties, we're at 7% typically for a DSCR loan.
Okay.
Um, but like I said, it needs work. And when I first walked the property, it didn't look like it needed too much work. But we walked it again with the contractor, and we're kind of really digging into the details. I'm like, okay, this and it's three structures, right?
Hmm.
So what we're thinking is we're going to keep the renters that are there. We're going to keep them there. We're going to let them stay put. So they'll be paying $1,700.
So it's
And then
the first renter in the 3-2. That's a house with a studio attached to it.
yeah, and the renters in the studio. They're living in the studio. They're getting
Oh,
about
so the 3-2 is vacant in the okay.
yes. The 3-2, which is the bigger part of the house, is vacant.
So you couldn't split that off and sell that separately, could you?
No, no,
Okay.
no, no. So our initial numbers, right, is at a 310 loan at 6%, our PI principal interest is about 1825, something like that,
Okay.
1835.
So that's 1825 a month.
Something like that. Yeah. So if we kept those renters in there, right, they'll pay for almost all of that. Okay. So that's kind of where our head is. Like those
Hmm.
renters will pay almost all of that, right?
And
I'm
you should
paying
be able to get a lot more for the houses, right?
correct. But what we want to do is fix up those houses and do short term and midterm rentals.
Yeah.
Short term rental on a house up front because it's a 3-2, like it's a bigger house, a
Yeah.
bigger part. And then on the 2-1 in the back, we'll do as a furnished monthly rental,
Do
you
they have
know.
separate driveways and entrances and
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's two driveways, and then we were thinking about that too, of kind of how we can separate it to make sure, like, they have plenty of parking too, right? On the property.
Yeah,
There's
it's
no street
18,000 square
parking.
feet.
There's parking on the property. So we don't have to worry about the long-term renters interfering with our, constant rotation of guests
Yeah.
coming in and out, right? So we kind of thought about that.
Hmm.
So the rents that we were thinking about was, for the 2-1, we could probably get about 2 grand as a midterm rental. The 3-2, we could probably get about 2,500 as a midterm rental. So we're just kind of running it as a midterm rental right now for those two.
Okay.
Now, when we convert the other two, right, the 1-1 and that other studio, if we convert those, that studio becomes another 2-1. So then we'll have two of those.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And then the 1-1, I think we're getting about $800 there. So our total income is about, let me see, year one is about 70, $87,000, something like that. Year one
Yeah.
for those 3 units.
I mean, that STR market, there's not going to be any pushback or any obstacles.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the
So
question
that kind
is,
of,
how much money do you need to put into it?
yeah. So that's the thing. That's the challenge, right? We were hoping to kind of get away with an $80,000 budget, just because we're not replacing the siding. We're not even going to repaint the outside. They had recently painted the outside, but we need a new roof on the front house. We need a new electrical box, right? Electrical's fine. We always redo the plumbing. So we're redoing the plumbing, and
Hmm.
we're doing flooring and paint inside. There's a bunch of foundation work. And then we're doing kitchen and bathroom remodels, right? Because we need those just to be up to date, looking fresh, looking new. So we're
Yeah.
doing that though for two houses.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge, right? Is I don't think $80,000 is enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably closer to
Because you're,
100K.
what about HVAC?
HVAC is fine in the front house. The back house, which is a smaller house, I can probably get away with 5 grand on HVAC on the back house because it's a smaller unit. It's a smaller house, so I think I can get that done for about 5 grand, maybe 6 grand.
What about the roof? How
The
much? How
roof
much?
is fine. The roof is fine on there.
What about you said the front house needs a roof?
Yeah, the front house needs a roof. Yeah, so
You
remember,
got a
there's
bid
three
on that?
structures. No, we'll get it through our general contractor probably.
I
You
mean,
know,
because that might be like 8 or 10 grand, right?
about probably 8 grand. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You know,
Yeah, I would if you have that budget in mind with the for the rehab budget, and then it comes out, I would just retrade based on what ends up because with the SDRs, you can't really cut any corners. Like if you're going to do
no,
long-term
no.
rentals, you may wait, you
Well, you
can
can go like a lower quality kind of on long
yeah,
term
lower
rentals. Yeah,
lower quality, or you can wait. You may
yeah.
not need to replace the plumbing this year. You could do plumbing next year. Just depending on what's needed. But with
Right.
with SDRs, like man, that's got to be a 10 out of 10 uh,
Hmm.
in almost any market. I mean, when you look at midterm rentals in that pocket, that area, are they all decked out? Because I know they're furnished. You got to furnish the
No, you're not really. No, not really. They're all pretty basic.
okay.
Now we're not going to be basic. We don't do anything basic. And so I don't know if I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but that we always, oh, not we always, sometimes we price ourselves out of deals because we don't like to do basic stuff, you know, like we're just not those kind of rehabbers, builders, flippers. We just don't like to do that. So there's some markets that we just don't go into just because, our offers are just going to be too low because we have to account for these bigger renovation
Well, how do
budgets.
you quantify what basic is? Because to me, my whole mindset is look at the market and just go one step past that. Not
Correct. Right. So the market in this market, I'm seeing honey brown cabinets, right? I'm
mhm.
seeing Formica, countertops, drop in stainless steel sinks, you know, black and white appliances, right?
Yeah,
Carpet in bedrooms, things like that. I'm
yeah,
seeing that those are pretty basic, you know. And this house has been kind of DIY'd over the years.
hmm
So the kitchen is great. It's huge, but you can tell the cabinets have been painted a couple times.
Yeah.
You know, you can see big brush strokes and things. So
Yeah.
when you stuff like that, you're like, well, do I repaint it or just rip it out and put something new and fresh?
Yeah.
And that just starts to drive up the cost, right? Your
It does.
budget. So we're hoping to get away with doing 2 units at 80K. You know, if we can do 2 units at 80K, I'm gonna have to really try to renegotiate. I don't think 350. I think we're gonna have to come probably down to
Yeah.
300.
I
You
think it's
know,
relative to your rehab budget. Like
yeah,
if you can get this on 80K, I think you have a good deal.
yeah,
Um, because it looks like you'll be making more than that per year, you know?
correct. So for year one, it's right 88,800. That's once we get once we get that other studio redone, right?
Hmm.
Because if I keep that, let me see, I've got a spreadsheet over here. If I keep those 2 units as is, and I just have the 2 1 and the 3 2,
Hmm.
my income drops from 88,000 to 74,000.
Yeah.
And that's my gross, right? So that's before my operating income. That's before my loan payments, right? Because as a landlord, or as a short-term rental, midterm rental operator, right? I'm paying for pest control, right?
Yeah.
I'm paying for landscaping, the
Yeah.
cleaning, the maintenance, lawn care, all of those things. I'm paying for those things. So I've got a spreadsheet here, and what I do is I've got a 10% vacancy allowance, right? So 74,000 is my potential income minus 7,400 for vacancy. My forecasted income is about 66,960. And I've got some other numbers plugged in for insurance, lawn care, all that stuff. But my operating expenses are about 31,920.
Okay. So gross potential is that you said 87K?
No, gross potential is 66,960.
That's the growth. I thought you said eight per for the year.
Correct, because that's only with 2 units fixed up, rehabbed.
No, with
Those 88, the 88
everything.
that I told you is like once all 4 units are
Okay, so
rehabbed.
let's look at that number. So we'll
Okay,
do
let's
like
look at that number. Okay,
so
let me look at this.
88K is your gross potential income, your GPI,
88, 800, yeah.
and you're factoring a 10% vacancy for
10% vacancy, yeah.
that's for midterm rentals. You're at 10% vacancy.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you subtract your vacancy and what's your expense ratio? What did you calculate for expenses?
Total expenses about 31,920. That includes insurance
So 32,
and taxes,
but not the debt service,
not the
not
debt
the debt
service.
service. So when you take that 32,000, I think this is important understanding the expense ratio. When you take the 32,000 and divide it by your gross potential rent of 88K, or
Mm-hmm.
actually you would take the 88K, take the 88,000, subtract your vacancy.
Right. So
So
that
you're at
that takes me to
79,200.
79,920. Mm-hmm.
79,200. So if you take your 32K and divide it by 79,200, your expense ratio is right on the money. It's at 40%.
Okay.
That rule, that's that's a very good rule of thumb when it comes to a lot of probably most uh, investment assets, real estate assets is
Mm-hmm.
40%. Once you start seeing expenses above 50%, you might have a problem. You
Okay.
know, so 40%, 39% is probably safe. That's with short-term rentals. That's with property management and
Yeah.
furnishing and all the
Mm-hmm.
different things that go into it. So that sounds about
Yeah.
right
So
to
I
me.
have like, a little bit higher on repairs and things like that, because things are going to get broken probably a little bit more than when you have a long-term rental. For
Okay.
instance, like my long-term rental expenses are just super, super low. But I've also factored in like cost for supplies, right? Because I'm re-upping on trash bags, coffee, tea, like all those
Yeah.
things that we supply with our units, right? So there's additional expenses that are factoring into that 40%.
So I'm coming up with a net operating income of 47,000
Yeah, about
to
48 grand. Yeah.
about 48 grand.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good to me. When you take that 47 and you're going to divide it by you got your say you get it at 350 and then You
I'm
add
putting
that
40K
80K.
down.
Yeah,
I'm putting
400.
40K down. So I'm all in for about I'm factoring estimating some closing costs. I'm all in for about 123.
Yeah. So your cap return is about 11%. So what's your cash on cash? So when you take that net operating income, what's your annual debt service, not including the
Annual debt service is about 22,303.
okay, 22,303. So you're going to take
Yeah.
your NOI, subtract
So that
your
puts me at about 25,696 is my pre-tax cash flows. And
when you say pre-tax, you're talking about sales tax, the
right, right.
income
Yeah, my
tax, not
yeah,
not your
income
property
tax.
tax.
No, no, income tax. Yeah.
Okay. So
So
that 20
now, yeah, go ahead.
so your return should be, once you
About
finish the
26%.
yeah, you should buy that.
I want to, man, but it's like I need that rehab. So that rehab budget, right? I'm saying it's 80K, right? But what we just looked at was a fully rehabbed all four units.
Hmm.
And so my contractor, I just said, hey, let's just look at the first two units first. Like, what is that going to look like? So this would kind of be when it's stabilized, when I'm all the
Yeah.
way done with it,
Yeah.
and that might take a year or two. So it would be a 5 year note, a 30-year amortization. So it'll be a
Hmm.
5 year balloon at
Hmm.
that 6%. And that's why I'm like, hey, if we don't have to, come up with a bunch of money up front and we've got these two renters that are kind of paying the mortgage
Yeah.
anyway, right? Then I go get another 125K to do all this stuff, right? So now
Yeah.
I'm paying 12% on that. I'm paying 1250 a month on that, but I'm making $2,500 on off those other two rentals, a month,
Yeah.
right? Then I might be doing okay, right? I'm not going to be making money hand over fist until I can either refinance out, right, or fix up these other units as these people
Yeah.
move out,
Yeah. And a big chunk of your money is going to happen when you go to sell it down the road.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you are
So
parking quite a bit of money into a project like that.
yes, exactly. And so that's kind of the challenge, everything we kind of I like to teach our students is, when you're looking for deals, and all of them start with some working capital, right? They either
Hmm.
have like 50K or more typically to start with. And when you're using hard money and things like that money can go pretty fast.
Yeah.
Number one, in closing costs, points, interest, things like that, it can go pretty fast. So I'm encouraging them, like, look, whatever your number is on the offer, like your goal is to close on this deal. And when you close on it on the short-term financing, you want to keep as much of your money in your bank account
Hmm.
because you're going to be making a bunch of interest payments over time
Yeah.
while you're doing this project. And they're doing rehabs just like this is, and it's probably going to go over budget, right? So you
Yeah.
have a contingency, but sometimes you blow right past that contingency.
Right.
You just kind of see things that you can't really see behind walls and all that stuff. You try to anticipate it. And so I'm kind of like, okay, we've got a lot of this money just sitting in the bank right now, allocated for other projects. And I was talking to my lender. I was like, I was thinking about kind of using it for this thing, right? And he's like, well, as long as you got money for these other things,
Yeah.
you don't want to have to stop those projects because you got money tied up over here,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of it's a little bit of a
You
little
got to
hard
think of the
spot.
whole business holistically because it
Yeah.
it may it may impair your ability to either A, make improvements, whether necessary or unnecessary in other properties, but also you always got to provide an opportunity for the opportunity because we don't know what's going to land on your desk tomorrow could be something even
Mm-hmm.
better. So it doesn't mean you should pass on this deal. I think on paper it makes a lot of sense. Get your contractor inspector. Are you doing inspections or is your contractor handling all that?
Now we're probably not going to get any inspections done because we're going to replace a lot of the stuff, kind of thinking about refinancing, like,
Hmm.
because I'm trying to think about the end in mind, right? We kind of start there and work our way backwards. That we've talked about that a lot on our calls, and then we talk about it a lot with our students. And what I like about the spreadsheet that I use is it gives me kind of the value based on the cap rate and our income, all that
Hmm.
stuff, right? So it's kind of, let me see. I think I plugged in a cap rate of 10% on this thing.
Yeah, I came up with close to 11,
Yeah. So when I do that,
but
it kind
that's
of
pro
puts me,
forma. That's
yes.
after.
Yeah, that's in the future, right? When I do that, it kind of puts my value at about 533,000. So
Yeah.
if that's the case, I think 350 is just way too expensive. If I'm going to go put another 100K into this thing, if I'm putting 100K into this thing, then I'd like to have a little bit more, like, and I'm going to have to get this refinanced. Let's say it does appraise at 533. I can get 75% of that. That's 400,000, you
Yeah.
know, and if I'm buying it for 350, I'm putting 100K in, maybe I'm leaving 50K. It's not that big of a deal, right? If I'm making $25,000 a
Hmm.
year,
Hmm.
that's not that big of a deal. But again, I want to keep as much of my money in my bank account as possible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to get something for nothing. And I know that they have specific goals that, they want to accomplish with, offloading this property. And I think they like the idea of continuing to get some mailbox money, right? And not having to worry about the property, not having
Yeah.
to worry about fixing it up and all this stuff, right? And I get it. But I'm thinking like, I mentioned to you at the beginning of the call, Austin, or when we first started talking about this deal, was keeping the renters in there now. So I've got some income coming
Yeah.
in. But talking is over with you, I'm just thinking like, man, you know what? Maybe it just might make sense to do the whole thing. Just do the whole thing at once.
We had one client and that was his strategy. He would buy apartments and then he would just like everybody, if everyone in that building was month to month, he would give everybody a 30-day notice. He would
Oh yeah.
vacate the whole property. I would never do that personally. That's just me.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
I want to hear it. Yeah.
but because it's very uncomfortable when you have money coming in, and it's like you said, like part of you feels good. There's some money coming in. It's going to kind of soften the blow while you rehab those other units. But if you're in a position to just empty the whole building out and do everything all at once, because we're selling a
Mhm.
property and we keep getting this question. People say, what percentage of the properties are rehabbed? I mean, like 79.43%. How do you answer that? Because people have been living here since the 90s. So
Yeah.
as people move in and move out, we rehab them, and some of them were rehabbed this year. Some of them had the carpet changed out 3 years ago. It's like every unit's differently. So
Yeah.
if you want something that has like a harmonious, like synchronized concept, yeah, you'll want to vacate the whole property
Yeah.
in order to do
So
that.
one of the things about doing that, one of the benefits of doing that is that garage apartment, like a studio,
Hmm.
can probably get in that area about 1,700 bucks a month, a studio. So that's just one unit right there. And then we convert the other two, the other two we're getting uh for two of them we're getting $2,000 each. So that's $5,700 right there. And then we're getting $2,500 on the front house.
Hmm.
Right. So that takes my income on the first year to 98,400. That gives me another 10 grand in income coming
Hmm.
in.
Hmm.
Now my renovation budget probably isn't 80K anymore. Maybe it's 120,
Yeah.
So now maybe I'm in all in for 150. Okay. But that puts my ARV, you based off that 10% cap rate, from 533 to 629
Okay.
if I
Yeah.
renovate all four, and that's the income that I have coming in. And this is a little bit of conservative number. So I was talking to my coach and I was asking him like, hey, what are you getting inside the loop? Right. And so he gave me some numbers and I just basically took $100 or $200 off all those, because maybe I'll get a little bit less because I'm not that
Hmm.
close to
Hmm.
downtown. Right. So
Do you think your
that,
contractor, if you vacate the whole property, is your contractor able to give you a better rate on the work when he's able to get into all the units at one time?
yeah, I was thinking about that too, but I don't know. I really don't know. I think that he would. I don't think it would be a better like price per square foot or something like that if he was able to do all four. I think it would just be more like, hey, this is the number. The number is the number. It's funny because right when we started the call, like he called me. I was like, okay, I've got somebody to call back after this call just to see what he's talking about. He may have some initial numbers. I think he's waiting on us to send him the scope of work because now we can walk properties. He kind of
Hmm.
sees everything, sees what
Hmm.
we want to do. I get some feedback from him, and then he's send me your scope of work, and then I'll send
Yeah.
you the quote based off of that.
What year
So
was
we
this
were working
built?
on that. Say again.
The year built. Do you have that?
Oh, that I don't know actually. Probably look it up for you real quick. Let's see.
This part of Houston, things like that can definitely work. I mean, you go down like Clear Lake, it might not as much, but when you have like basically a house with a studio and a garage apartment and another like an ADU, like a single family 2-1. We'd call that
Mm.
an ADU. It's on the same property, like a mother-in-law suite is what. I don't know if we're allowed to say that anymore. I don't know what's PC and what's not anymore, but a
See.
2-1.
Why isn't this coming up? Oh, well, I gotta find this. Oh, it's 8321. I was putting the wrong
But
address.
it was built in the 20th century, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Maybe the other parts were added on later.
So I'll tell you because and that's the cool thing about this property is, you know, HCAT has all three structures on there.
Hmm.
You know, now it does have the front house as yeah, these were built in the 30s and 40s and
Oh
50s.
wow.
But
Are they pier and
it
beam?
has remodel dates. So the back house was remodeled in 2020. The
Okay.
front house was remodeled in 2002.
Oh yeah, that's probably time.
Yeah.
What type of foundation do they have?
So the front house, which is a duplex, right? The front house, the first unit is pier and beam. The back studio is
Hmm.
slab.
So they added the slab part was added later.
Yeah. So they added that slab part in 2002. Then the back house itself is pier and beam. And then of course, the garage apartment is on a slab with piers.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah.
Good stuff. Sounds like you
Yeah,
can
good
do some
stuff.
interesting stuff with it. It just has a Houston vibe to it. It sounds like.
Yeah,
Give us.
definitely. It's a huge lot. So there's a lot that we can do outside, in
Hmm.
the outdoor space. I mean, just the fence alone is probably going to be about $12,000. Like it's a
Yeah. Oh,
huge
the
lot,
fence. Yeah.
just the fence alone. But making it a good space, right?
Hmm.
Like you said, it's not a long-term rental. It's going to be short-term, mid-term rental. So people are going to want some outdoor space, string lights, fire pit, maybe a hot tub or something like that.
Yeah.
Trying to figure that, if we want to do that, if that makes sense. But those are things that we're looking at too that I can drive up the cost, right? You just put that in your rehab budget.
Yeah. Sounds
So
good, man. It sounds like an interesting deal. There's
yeah,
definitely some opportunity to put about a 80 to 100K of equity into it within the first 12 months. You
yeah,
got 11% cap rate on it, but even more important than that, your cash on cash return with these financing terms are going to be above 20%, which that's a win-win.
that's a win. Yeah, that's
So
definitely a
so
win.
the obstacles are the unknowns, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think you know the market well enough. You know these numbers well enough. You were able to answer all my questions. I couldn't stump you today. I tried. So you were ready for all that. So the
Yeah.
next thing is just get your contractor in there and try to find, you know,
Yeah.
what's going on with it.
Julie and I, we talked about the deal and I'm just trying to discern, right? What's the best course of action? We talked about them here, right? Do we do 2 units? Do we do all 4 units? We do 2 units, we've got income coming in, but if we do 4 units, then we're going to be down for several months, right? To get
Hmm.
all of this stuff back up and running, get it
Yeah.
furnished, all that stuff. That could be 6 months,
Yeah.
right? 6 months of mortgage payments is not awful, right? The mortgage payment is like $1,800. It's not like awful,
Yeah.
but maybe if the mortgage payment was like 3 grand or 4 grand.
I mean, think about
Uh,
it this way: $1,700 a month is what you're getting if you keep the tenants in there. So over the
mhm.
course of 3 months, that's about
Yeah.
40. So if you can save $4,000 by doing it all at once,
Mm.
if you can rehab it in 90
I
days,
see what
save
you're saying.
save $4,000 by doing all the
Yeah.
work at once, then yeah. But
I
if it's
have to
not going to,
remember. Yeah, I was gonna say I have to remember too, like paying interest on whatever money that we put into it,
yeah.
right? Is it going to be money from this bank account where we have funds allocated for certain projects that we're
Hmm.
building,
Yeah.
and again I was talking to my lenders just like, hey, maybe we might need to leave some of the money in there, and I was like, he's cool with it, right? The clock
Yeah.
doesn't stop.
Yeah.
The clock doesn't stop, which is fine. And getting that ARV up and operating it for a year, all
Yeah.
4 units as short term or midterm, getting that value up to 629, and then I can cash out, right?
Yeah.
I can go get a DSCR loan after a year of operation. I can here's my
Hmm.
books, go get a DSCR loan. They value it
Easy.
at 629,
Yeah.
and now I can go get it refinanced, and I have zero money in the deal. Everybody
Yeah.
gets paid.
Yeah.
The sellers get their seller finance paid off. My lender gets his note paid off. Everybody gets their interest paid off, and maybe in a year or two, I've got this fourplex now that's crushing it.
Word. Awesome, man.
I'm
Okay.
gonna keep you posted, of course.
Report back next week. Let's see what.
Yeah, well, yeah, I should have the renovation numbers back by next week. Actually, probably by Thursday this week. Julie and I are we're working on the second house SOW. And we're getting that over to our contractor. He'll usually take a day or two. Foundation guy should come back probably tomorrow with some numbers, and then we'll kind of decide if we have to kind of renegotiate our initial offer of 350, which I'm thinking we probably will. I'd like to be closer to 300,
Yeah.
if we're going to be all in for 150 or something like that.
With houses that old, there's all sorts of stuff that, because you don't
Oh
know
yeah,
what's
we
on.
identified some termite damage already, some old termite damage. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well,
And you don't know
we
what's
have to.
underneath the house either,
Mm-mm,
too.
mm-mm.
So,
I know there's a lot of fleas.
oh, really? Oh, that's easy to deal with. Those kind
Yeah,
of things are easy. When you have
yeah.
like a massive plumbing leak under the house,
Oh yeah,
that's a little different. Home warranties will not cover that. In fact, I don't think home warranties cover anything that people need them for. So that's just my experience.
yeah.
Anyways, don't forget April 16th, Thursday, Albert and I are going to be shooting episode 50 live at Jackie's Brick House upstairs. So come in and
Be
grab a
awesome.
drink, take a seat, ask some questions, and don't forget subscribe on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple, all the stuff. Subscribe and like, comment on our videos, hit the notification bell, and that's all we got for you this week.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you,
right,
brother.
man. We'll see you
Y'all
next
have a
week,
good
bro.
week. Bye.
Bye.